Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Contemplations, the podcast. Like I said last week, we're having a two-part conversation. So for those of you who haven't listened to last week's episode, what? Go listen. Because last week I had a really great conversation, or rather I started a really great conversation with my very good friend and brother, Alex. And we were talking about nostalgia and how it has shaped our childhood, how it has shaped the things we do and how we do them. And we had some pretty good nuggets there that honestly, just go check it out for yourself, because not only is it good, but it also helps set precedent for the conversation today, which is literally just a continuation of what we were talking about last week. And here, Alex and I just talk about how nostalgia plays a role in our society, and how we can show up with toxic or harmful representations or manifestations of nostalgia, and how we can decide to let our nostalgia push us towards a better version of ourselves. So we did have a really enriching conversation, and I can't wait for you to hear it. But before I let you jump into the audio, I just wanted to thank everyone who has listened so far and has provided feedback. I really appreciate you. Just encouraged to continue to listen. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. It's Contemplations, the podcast by Kinah. And leave me your thoughts. Follow the page on Instagram. Like as usual, everything is in the description box. And without further ado, I will let us hop into this audio. Talk to y'all later. Bye. Hey you. Thank you for listening to Contemplations, the podcast. I'm your host, Kinah, and I'm so glad that you're here. I hope that by listening, you are inspired to think thoughts and ask questions that ultimately move you to a better version of yourself. Enjoy the show. Something to be nostalgic about, getting addicted to the feeling of nostalgia, which is one of the things that I wanted you to speak on in terms of how you think nostalgia can be toxic. You raised such a good point that I really wanted you to talk about. The last time we talked about this, about how nostalgia doesn't only have to be about places. It can be about privilege or something that we just are used to having that we don't have anymore. So if you can talk more about that.
For sure. I think that's definitely on the rise, because I think the world is changing. Like if you look at the past 200 years, it's also crazy to me that it's like, humanity has existed for this long, but it's within the past 200 years now that we are seriously having conversations and moving things forward in terms of equality between genders, between races, between classes, like people. This conversation is really shifted in the last little while. So I think especially in North America and Europe, let's say, I think there's definitely, I think we're feeling the rise of certain things that we thought probably wouldn't rise, but now we're seeing they do. So like we see a lot of people who feel like something is being taken from them because of the shifts that are happening in the world. And I think that is one of the playouts, the tricks of nostalgia is playing on your mind, because I think people, let's say if you grew up in a city in the States and growing up, if you're white, I think growing up, you would have been used to the world saying everything is from your perspective. Like if you, everything will be from your perspective. The news anchors will be speaking from your perspective, looking out at the world, and the music will be speaking from your perspective, looking out at the world. And so now that things are shifting so much and everyone is getting a voice and getting a chance to speak from their perspective, which happens to be different, I think a lot of people start to feel there's this trick that's being played in their mind that they're losing something when they're not really losing anything. All they're losing is the privilege of being the main perspective in the story. And to be fair, let's be real, they're still very much the main perspective. Let's not pretend like we've moved that far. We're still it's early days. So I think for a lot of people, this nostalgia is like, oh, I miss the time when you could make whatever joke you wanted and not get in trouble, or I miss the time when, you know, a whole community kind of looked the same. I've actually seen a lot of this. It's getting more common. People saying like, it makes sense for communities to be all one people, because then we can, you know, we all have common values and common trust. And it's like, whoa, there's a lot to unpack there. But one of the main tricks that's being played on your mind is things made sense when you were a kid, and you learned to see the world through one perspective, and now you're finding out there's other ones out there, and that they all carry some truth, and your perspective also carries truth, but no one has the full picture. And it's it undermines the identity you've been built on, which is that I have the main kind of, that I know what's going on and I have the handle on everything. And that can be very destabilizing to a person and to communities. So
yeah, and it's so interesting that I think I started recently developing empathy for that kind of feeling, because it's very easy, I think, and I don't say this lightly, because like prejudice and discrimination is not a small thing, and it should not exist. But I do feel empathy for some people who it just like the word destabilizing is so apt for that, because even the best intentioned people, when their routine suddenly changes, not everybody adjusts well to that. And a lot of people react to that with confusion. And I also even see this, I saw this a little bit in myself. It's not the same thing, but I think the same concept. And some could be, I guess, more toxic than others. But I remember in the US, after learning a lot of, when I used to live in the US, and after learning a lot about just the way African Americans were treated, every time I saw like a non-African or non-African American wearing like dashikis, I got offended. You know, because it's something I feel like I held on to, like it's my thing. It's the thing I'm missing. It's my culture. And then I see someone just like, in my opinion, just casualizing it. And I'm like, oh, like, and even these, sometimes it would be like my friends, but people who had never traveled or lived in any African country, they just saw it at a fair, because they would do a lot of fairs. And I'm like, oh, like on one hand, these people are selling it, but like, should you buy it? Like, are you taking my culture? And I didn't know why I was feeling like that. And then when I started trying to understand how people who just feel ownership of their culture, whatever they've decided their culture is, I guess, in America, I guess, and maybe in North America, it'll be privilege. That's one of the cultures. I don't think it's an overt culture, but it is a culture of like what you were saying, the way things are. That's just the way we do things. When I go to school, these are just the people I see. When I watch movies, these are just the people I see. That's what I know. And then on the other hand, me from Nigeria, I interacted with Nigerian culture a lot, but almost as much as I did with American culture, because we had American and British channels, but America doesn't have Nigerian channels. They have to seek it out. So the interaction is very different, and it can be annoying initially to be like, why are you so conceited? But then it's like this whole thing of the culture has been built around one group of people. So to them, it's more of an adjustment. Like I grew up being aware of them. They did not grow up being aware of me. Confusion, I think, is a feeling that I think we should embrace more of. I don't think people like being confused.
Definitely.
But I think it's okay to be confused and to admit that like we just don't know and we're trying to figure out what the heck this is, and then talk about it and figure it out. And then even if we don't get to a conclusion, which is, I told you, that's one of the goals of this podcast. It's not that we're getting to a resolve, but I just want people to be comfortable sitting in the idea that I don't know, I'm going to try and talk this out, think this out, figure it out. And you can leave the conversation saying, I know a bit more, but I still don't know a lot. And that's okay, because you've broken ground, you've made progress, and that's fine. And I think in the grand scheme of going back to the topic of nostalgia, like making sure or moving towards the more toxic parts of nostalgia where people are attached to memories that are not healthy for other people. Like a memory that's good for you. And I'll talk again, I'll talk to Marika about this because I know she has a lot to say about this. Like a memory that's good for you can be very bad for someone else.
Yes.
And so really reevaluating how you interact with that memory, even though it's a memory that's good for you. That's like a whole other conversation that I think is helpful to talk about, but I won't go into that. I will just I'll jump to the next question.
Let's do it.
And leave that. So I don't know why I keep saying I wanted to ask. I am asking you. My next question for you is, how do you think nostalgia fits in with the idea of looking ahead? Since nostalgia is about looking behind, how important do you think that looking behind is to looking ahead or staying in the present even? I'll add that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's vital. I think it's so important to, here's my opinion, my theory, and take it with a grain of salt, but I think that everyone is making their decisions and doing their actions and moving forward into the future based on their past. We're all doing it. Like whether you know it or not, you're basing everything you do on what you've experienced so far. So it's super vital to actually dissect and unpack what you have experienced and what you're feeling, because otherwise you're just going to be moving forward without knowing why you're choosing what you're choosing. So I think nostalgia and understanding your nostalgia will really help people to move forward in ways that they actually consider to be healthy, rather than just moving forward in ways that might be their current habit. So yeah, I am always trying to understand what it is that I miss about the different places I lived. And the other tricky thing about nostalgia is we're very good at forgetting the parts we didn't enjoy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So it's a very one-sided look. So it's important to remind that there were certain things that we all struggled with in our past. And so, but I think nostalgia has such a beautiful power of love, because if it stayed in you, it's because you loved it. And if you can figure out what the actual reason you loved it was, then you're learning something very important about yourself. Maybe
that's so true.
Like you're learning that maybe what really matters to you most over anything is a feeling of community. And if that's true, then you should move forward and make your decisions looking for genuine feelings of community, because your heart is yearning for it. But actually understanding, what is it that I miss? What is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I long for? Because the foolish, that's bold of me to say, but the foolish way to do this is to think that the better thing you're looking for is actually still in the past. It's not there. It's gone. It's changed. It's moved. It never even really existed because it was just your perception of it. So instead, just look for it in your future, and you're going to find a lot more of that happiness.
That is so incredibly good. Oh my gosh. That like literally, I'm going to snippet that. That's so great, because I was literally having a conversation with my brother yesterday, and he was, because he also does music like you know, and he was like bouncing I don't know the terminology, I don't do music, but he was working on a bounce apparently or something. And it reminded me of a song that we used to listen to in our parents' car when we were on a road trip. It reminded me of a specific memory. And it was very interesting that I was telling him about the memory, and my recollection of the memory involved like the food I ate or something. Like just me, I didn't really remember what was going on with other people in the car, like my mom, my dad, and my brother. And my brother's recollection of that exact same memory had to do with me, and it called me out a little bit.
Interesting,
because it's like a potential for selfishness that I didn't know existed when I was a kid, right? Because we were all four of us in the car. We had this great memory. I vaguely remember what everyone else was doing, but my brother remembered that my dad had bought something for me, a CD for me, and that my mom didn't want me to play it, and my dad wanted me to play it. I didn't remember that. Like I totally forgot about that, and I just was sitting on our mom made us listen to this. I didn't even remember the context behind that. But then it what you said made me remember this in terms of what you remember, how you interact with your nostalgia really says a lot about who you are. So that really, for me, encourages me to, in the memories I'm building now, in terms of thinking of how to move forward, when I'm interacting with people, really be present in what they are also experiencing. Because in the future, I'm going to look back and I want to be able to remember their experiences as well as mine, and not it just being about me. Because my own goal for my life is to be a more selfless person as I move forward in life. So
that's a beautiful goal.
Yeah, I was even gonna say that because you and I, like when we talk, people who think alike, when we talk, it can almost, we might almost forget that not everybody has the same ideals that we do, you know? Because now we're talking about like how you want to be better, how you want to be toxic. Some people are just trying to be toxic. Like some people's like motto is hashtag toxicity, and I don't understand it, but like some people are like that. So I guess at that point, I would probably just encourage people. You can try. Just taste and see what it feels like to not be toxic and see if you like it. I feel like it's going to be great.
It doesn't hurt.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. Because the thing is, lots of people suffer from one person being toxic, which is, that's another thing like I'll talk about another day. But I've always interacted with the idea of how, or thought about the idea of how we can really just be trying to live our own lives. And the decisions we're making, as much as we think it's about us, they really impact so many people.
Yeah.
Like we have so much more influence than sometimes we're willing to admit.
Yeah.
You know, which is why I think it's very important to talk about things like this and how they affect us, because ultimately they'll affect the things we do, and the things we do, I believe, affect so many other people. So sure. I think we should really just be conscious of how we're showing up in the world, because it's one thing to think about something, but like there's somewhere in the Bible that I remember reading where it says as a person thinks, so they are. So like your thoughts essentially affect how you show up. And I've always wondered about how that plays into a world full of billions of people. How we just show up and we're like, nobody can control our minds. I mean, for most people. And then we just come with our own thoughts and show up that way. And I don't know. It's very interesting to me.
It is. It's a huge, these are huge concepts. And thank you for the reminder as well. Like this is just the two of us talking. So it's like, I think there's so many other perspectives out there. There's so many other ways to see this. And the thing that often happens when two people who kind of seem to be thinking similarly on something, they often end up coming to the conclusion that they're right. Like in some great, like we are correct. Like we have the truth. And it's like, well, no, we don't. We found something we thought was pretty cool, but like there's so much more to be added and to be taken away even from some things that we said that probably weren't accurate before we actually reached some truth. So that's why I think this podcast like this, I'm really grateful you've made it, because I think people who are listening should also be bringing their truth to this and thinking about it from their perspective, because that just adds so much more to the conversation.
Exactly, because we've talked about our own experiences with nostalgia, but like I said, someone could be listening to this and be having a whole different interaction with the idea of nostalgia, and may relate with some of the things we're sharing, and other things are like, no, actually I had the opposite feeling of this, which I think is very interesting. And my goal is just to have more conversations like this, to really just hear those perspectives, because they do exist, like where people think differently about different things. And it's not that really one person is wrong or the other person is right. It's just that they're interacting very differently with the thing. I tend to believe there are some topics where there is the truth out there, but we as human beings, because I think we're smart, but I don't think we're that smart. Like sometimes it takes us time to get there. And on the path to getting there, we're just like, I don't know, just toying around with all these different ideas, fighting about who's right or wrong, and then find out that neither of us really had the full picture. It usually ends up being something like that. But I think that the journey itself is interesting, to just try and discover like what is this thing like that we're interacting with. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the last question now.
I'm ready.
Which you've pretty much answered all my questions, but I learned this in school, and I think it's a great question. When my, what's her, is she an editor? Yeah. Anyway, I volunteer for something in school, and the person who really helps me, like teaches me all the media stuff, she was like, when you're interviewing people, you should ask, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because it gives them space to say things that are important to them. And I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. So I've incorporated that in my practice. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Alex?
There is one thing, from like a personal level, because I've been thinking about this a lot. And one of the reasons why I've started actually thinking about nostalgia more is because of my wife, because she always she's the one who helps me understand what I'm actually thinking and feeling, because I'm there thinking and feeling it, but I don't know I'm thinking and feeling it until she tells me. So yeah, I think there was, especially like early on in our marriage, I would often, like, there'd be days I just get kind of sad. I'd get a bit nostalgic for something, and I'd say that, like, I was able to communicate that. She'd be like, oh, why are you sad? And I'd be like, oh, I miss this. And she'd be like, okay. And then with time, I don't even remember how she did it, but she kind of like advised me or taught me to, when I'm feeling sad or nostalgic, to feel it. Like rather than be like, I'm missing when I was 10 years old and I used to do this with my friends in Zimbabwe. Yeah. Oh, I miss that. Well, let's move on. I should do the dishes now. She'd be like, no, go and sit with that and remember it and feel it and like go through the emotions of it. And I'm still too early on in this process to know why I think this is important. But I think it's been super helpful for me. And so now often something will trigger some sort of nostalgia, and then I'll go and I'll sit somewhere or lie down and I'll just play some songs from when I was a kid that I miss so much, that make me feel even more, and I go deeper into the bittersweetness. And I think it's really helpful because I don't know all the reasons why I think it's helpful yet, but one of them is that it's a really beautiful reminder that we have felt love for things. Wow. Like when I sit there and I'm so sad, that being so sad can only come from having loved so much. Like you don't get so sad over something that didn't matter to you. So it's like, I think for me, it's been a healthier way to engage with nostalgia, to engage with sadness or things you've lost. And that would be my question is for everyone, including myself, who is struggling with some negative forms of nostalgia and toxic forms of nostalgia, to like try and feel those emotions, but look at it in terms of what is it that I love so much that I don't have, and maybe find some new answers in that, rather than kind of staying closed off and thinking, well, I miss this at a superficial level, and it's because of globalization, or it's because of political correctness, or it's because like these are very superficial things. I'm sorry. Like if you're feeling something that deeply, it's because you're feeling something that deeply. Like you love something so much. So what is it? Let's explore.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That was such a great way. Such a great way to end this. And thank you for plugging Marika in, because I know for a fact she's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. And I think that's very powerful. I'm really excited for the listeners to get to listen to her, because she's not a person of a lot of words, but she's just a very I just consider her a very powerful person, because her mind, just being able to understand that you have to sit in your emotion. It sounds basic now that we're practicing it, but before you start doing that, you don't even know that you have that option available to you. And a lot of people don't, right? They just think, I don't know, I really miss this. Oh, well, we move, as we say.
Especially, and it's like, I think, like the entire genders, like the entire male gender has definitely been taught to not sit in their emotions. Entire cultures are very much not into sitting in their emotions. This is the life that we've built for ourselves for one reason or another. But it's a simple thing that is not like natural, I think, to most people, because we've been told, don't sit in your emotions, you're just going to be paralyzed, you're not going to do anything, go and do something productive, it'll make you feel better. It probably will, but also like take a second and understand what you're actually feeling, so that you don't just walk around blindly hurting people without realizing that it's because you're actually sad about something from 20 years ago.
Exactly. Because then we become salty, and then we're just like irritable, and we don't even know why. Because for me, that used to happen to me a lot. It still does sometimes, but I'm more conscious of it, where I'd be just upset. I'm not even sure why. But if I really take that time to sit, then I remember that like a few hours ago, I did say I was missing something or I was sad about something. And I didn't actually address that. I was just like, I don't have time for this. And then it just shows up in the rest of my day, just being unnecessarily annoyed at things. And that's not helpful for people. So like the other thing I wanted to mention with that is just for us, at least to, for those of us who have this, because I realize not everyone has this, to be grateful for being surrounded by people who provide an environment to allow us to feel. Because like you said, whole cultures have been built around rub some dirt in it and move on. Like there are people who don't have a safe environment to just be, to feel what they're feeling. And I think that is very dangerous, because now we live in a generation of adults who were built that way. And you meet someone, I think now that's why I've been learning not to be very angry with people. If people like do me dirty or do something I feel like they shouldn't do, like I'll be salty for maybe the first week or so. But ultimately my goal is to just be like, I don't know why they showed up the way they did or didn't. And I just hope that they can heal from whatever that was, because it must be sad to not be able to to consider others in this way. It's, you know what I mean?
I know
it's sad to have people not call you out, to not allow you be, to not just be there for you. So
I love that you say that, to like be grateful for people who are making this space for you to feel your emotion. Like, and I also think we might not all have people around us doing that. And if you don't as well, it might also help to think of how can you be that person for people around you. Because everyone like this, I don't know why I'm going to expose them on a podcast, but I went camping with my brothers like a while back. And we all grew up, with the same environments and the same cultures around us and everything. And we don't really talk about our emotions that much. And so at one point we were driving back, and I was just like, okay, let me ask a question. So I just asked these three handsome men. I was like, do you guys ever get sad? And everyone had the same reaction. So everyone firstly thought I was asking because I was sad. So they're like, is everything okay? Like, what's wrong? Like, like the first thought was you would only ask that because like something's wrong and you want to share. And I was like, no, there's nothing really wrong with me. I was just wondering if you guys ever get sad. And then one by one, they just opened up and were just like, yeah, I get sad about this sometimes. I get sad about that. And then we just had a really nice conversation. But I don't like, we kind of have to start those conversations. They don't just happen. And I think like they're all very caring guys. Like it's not like they're all these like really rough people.
No.
But even for someone caring, it might just not just happen that you have a conversation like that. It's good to ask a question and start one.
That is, oh my gosh. And thank you for that encouragement, because it's true. Like we all need that reminder to, when we have something good, share the good news with other people. For example, like with someone like my brother, like I said, if you meet him, you will really think he just has no iota of emotion in his body. That's just the way he shows up.
Right.
But he's very caring, and I've had to make him, it was hard initially. And so I'm saying that to say it can be hard. It's not like it's super easy and then you just go around telling people, feel, and then they just start feeling. Like that's not how it works. But it took me just being patient, because I knew the value I found in feeling and communicating my feelings. And it took me patience to just be like, hey, I'm here. And it was a long time of me saying, I'm here. And then one day, briefly, little by little, he'll just be like, well, this is how I feel about this. And I offended him last month.
Of course.
And I know, when am I not offending someone?
No, I just meant because you're siblings, not you specifically.
But I do too. I just like offend people in love.
Of course.
But he communicated that to me. He was like, hey, sis, can I talk to you? You did this and it made me feel this way. And like low-key, I know. Like overall, I started with being salty, and then I was like, mad respect. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Like it's
so much better than the alternative, which is they feel that forever and they don't tell you and you don't know that it happened. Like it's so much better for everyone to know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And honestly, I'm trying to be that person too, because it is very hard for me sometimes to just be like, hey, you did this and it made me feel this way, but it's so helpful. And like, I don't want to go off topic, but this is literally going back to the topic of nostalgia, which if there are things that you find safety in from the past that are not really good, there's a way to like, I think there's a way to gradually let them go, to give way to build better memories, if that makes sense. Like, because today's experiences would be tomorrow's nostalgic memories. And so if we notice something flawed with yesterday's nostalgic memories, we should allow it to fuel us to build better memories from today, so that tomorrow when we look back on today, we're a little happier with what we're remembering and how we're interacting with that. Yeah. That is a very solid place to end, I think. Oh my gosh. This was so fun. Wise words from Alex and Kinah.
Thank you so much for creating this space.
Oh my gosh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so. I was so like, I cannot even. I mean, I told you this. I was gonna say I can't say it enough, but I did say it, and I keep saying it. I was so excited to have this conversation because these are conversations I feel like we have regularly. Oh my gosh, guys, that was so fun. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end. It was such an absolute honor and pleasure to talk to Alex, and I really had such a blast having this conversation with him, and I really hope that overall you were able to, if you haven't already, before, just thought about nostalgia, and I hope you can be thinking about how nostalgia shows up in your life, how it has influence some of the decisions you've made, some of the ways that you think about things. And I would love to hear about your own experiences with nostalgia. If you don't mind sharing, you can send me a message on Instagram at contemplationsthepod, or you can send me an email at contemplationsthepod@gmail.com. And once again, I am your host, Kinah. I'm so glad that you hung out with me today. And I will see you, or not see you, but I will talk to you next week on another episode of Contemplations, the podcast. Have a lovely day, night, or whatever time it is, wherever you are. And yeah, stay thinking. Ciao.